I have no idea if this makes any sense, but I just thought I'd talk about it. YouTube, welcome to my channel. My name is Lulu and I just wanted to send a quick shout out to a few people who I think are quite inspirational, if I do say so myself. I just wanted to talk about podcasting today and how you go about branding it. And every single podcast that you ever stumble on will usually have something very significant about them that makes them stand out more. And recently, I've been trying to rebrand a podcast that is coming soon. Hopefully, it'll be able to be launched by August, depending on the team focus. But if you think about podcast visuals, keep it simple and be sure to showcase what it's actually about. I know most times whenever we think of podcasts, it's the audio experience. So you think, what's really the necessity of creating a visual one? It's because whichever platform that you want to showcase your podcast, whether it's through an RSS feed, you probably have to go through iTunes to get your podcast up there because that's kind of where it originated in a sense. And you need to be verified through their support system. And the best way to do that is to have a podcast that is legible enough. The visuals, you can tell what the whole thing is about, that there's a personality attached to it. That includes looking at what your episodes are about, who is in charge of it, and the clout that it brings along with it. It has been quite the conversation because we've realized that audio, video is definitely the way forward. And nowadays you can watch podcasts on YouTube, which is amazing. And I think recently there was a VoiceCon organized with VaynerMedia.
And I think podcasting is grossly underpriced. And I think all of you should start a podcast in the same way that all of you are starting vlogs. Go do it, figure it out.
You need to start thinking about what your brand actually sounds like. And most people don't really think about that because they're like, well, it's more about what you look like more than what you sound like. So what's really the gain in making sure that your podcast actually looks a certain way? And there's certain ones that I absolutely love. The creative exchange that Sarah Dishi does, it is really good. Love the conversations that she has with people that she goes to find and be inspired by, which is great because if you're anything with media or in the journalism setting, film, or anything photography related, it's always great to know the different people that are interested in being part of the bigger conversation about how this influences the stories that we hear every day. Colin and Samir, they have a really good podcast. They talk about a lot of different things and I just love their personalities on videos. So it's always nice to hear them and hear them talk about everything, literally everything. Sports too, but pretty much everything. I've been listening to Couples Therapy with Candice and Casey. When it comes to branding, the most recent one that I came across was Brand and Blossom. Great way for you to get into how you can go about branding. That is where I get most of my inspiration from. And I've actually tested out some of the processes that she's mentioned in the actual podcast and they work pretty well. Another one is MyTaughtMe by Myleek. And she has got some amazing advice on what you can do, whether it's business focused or being able to process or compartmentalize the different things in your business life. Finding new ways of understanding what's going on with the environment if you're an entrepreneur or you're working a 9-to-5 or you're finding ways to build on what you already got. Love what she talks about. And of course, Hey Girl with Alex L. All the topics on mental wellness and being able to push through endurance. I love those kind of conversations as well. But yeah. Oh, and the New York Times podcast, the daily that they do. Oh, it's so good. It really does bring out all of the different things that are happening in the world, especially that are influencing our government. And just all of these different podcasts, they have a different personality, which is great. And I love the branding that they each have because the colors and the concepts and the way that their slogans work with their brand, and it doesn't move too far out from what they've already established with their websites and their social media platforms. So it's all very consistent, and that's what I love about podcasts. What kind of podcasts are you listening to these days? And why not comment with whichever podcast that is? So if you're thinking about starting a podcast, I would highly recommend using Anchor. The app is like you're calling someone and you just record. That's pretty much the easiest way for you to do it. So consider using that to start up your podcast. I'm just saying. I use that for my own podcast. What I decided to do was turn it into like a KAIKO Media Minute. So I give you some advice in under a minute on your personal brand, and I will link that down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope that you enjoyed what I had to say about podcasts, and if there are any that you feel I need to get into, feel free to leave them in the description below. I did write up a whole LinkedIn article about podcasts that I am listening to at the moment, and I will link that in the description as well. And like we do every single week, feel free to leave your earworm. Mine was the 1975. I kind of missed them. They really need to come back with more music. Chocolate, great song.
See you next week.